rate up at the very end
through.
for EDG, and we are continuing with some really intriguing B1s. B1 Leona from ThunderTalk.
The sort of thing that would have been unthinkable in the previous years when we wouldn't have had Fearless. But now in Fearless, I can understand why you want to pick yourself up something like this so early on. You don't want to let your opponents have it. You want to get the chance to be the only team to play it during this series. Now, we saw what ZZZ could do on this champion during that 1v1s. Fascinating to take the Jace this early on as well. It's been very high priority. We've been seeing it in a ton of games, but still, to take it this early on, the flexibility is there too. I'm expecting it to go into the top lane, but you can potentially move it around still. Wow.
I was gonna be interested. Locking Misfortune without her most common pairing is a little bit of a brain tickler, but there are many good pairings, support and AD carry with Misfortune, so we'll see. Maybe that Nico comes through on the R3. You really need that setup for the bullet time, so we'll see if we get that. Leona gonna get the pairing of Ezreal for 1xN. 1xN, even in the LNG loss, had a near game-defining performance on this champion, so it's good to see him back on a more damage first instead of setup first AD carry.
Absolutely, but it still isn't that hyper carry that we were really hoping to get to see out of 1xN, the one that we were really hyping up. The Jinx, it's not been banned, still hasn't been picked though by ThunderTalk, and it's been the most impressive pick for 1xN. Any of these hyper carries though with a ton of resets have been really, really fun to watch. You're not wrong in that the Ezreal has been good, but it isn't still the same full team fight kind of composition that we were really expecting. That being said, I love it paired up alongside the Leona, because you could take your Leona and just leave them to do whatever you want, and Leona paired up alongside a Xiaohao is an incredibly scary gank duo that can really take over the rest of the map, and you don't have to worry about your Ezreal. He is fine.
As the Ezreal OTP I am, that is what I tell every single one of my solo queue supports. Do not worry about me. Time to farm into the turret. So 1xN likely going to adopt that same mantra. Lee Sin was locked in for Xiaohao on the turn. So a lot of support pairings you can get rid of here. The Rel, the first one, I still think, I know the EDG comp is already pretty squishy, but Nico is so prevalent in that support role, especially in the LPL. Wouldn't mind throwing that respect band over to Wink. Comes to mind Rosie Love of Ultra Prime when they were able to get that one clutch win just a week ago. That Nico was massively impactful, but the Alistair band will be there instead. So still some engage options for Wink.
Wink, we've been talking about it. Really interesting to see if we can get some hook champions. Still not really going to get to see that one.
Elise support tech. We got it. We got it yesterday or 2 days ago. Are we getting it again?
Oh boy. I mean,
there we are.
Fine.
That's
sure.
it.
Why not? And I like this because actually, all of a sudden, I feel like you do have to care about your Ezreal. Obviously, Ezreal still has a ton of mobility and can sit under tower, but you are under so much more threat between that Elise and the Misfortune. That pairing does a ton of damage early on and can really take over and just keep this Ezreal completely pinned underneath the tower, unable to really do anything at all. And also, the Elise can roam pretty effectively alongside something like the Leona. Don't have to worry too much about getting out roamed across the map. Is going to be an Aurora pickup right here for SeTab. We have seen before they didn't end up winning the last time that this one was pulled out. That was in one of the losses versus LNG. Feather just picks up that on for Hoya. Very Hoya pickup. Hoya loves to have these very big tanky champions up in the top lane. It's fine into the Jace. You don't get to take over the matchup, but it's not the end of the world.
Especially with the tank Jace that we are likely to get here from ZDZ. Can't really be as oppressive into that Ornn is the Vladimir. An LPL staple pick, I feel like, by this point. It was actually, I'm trying to remember if it wasn't SeTab that we got to see that from in a game one earlier, but has been a prevalent pick. Angel will land on it with this R5 for EDG, so we went from a game with a ton of setup and a ton of power in the mid game to tons of scaling. Ezreal, Vladimir, Misfortune, Aurora, Ornn, all of them. Really all about the later stages of this game, where we still believe ThunderTalk are the better team when it comes to the push and shove.
Yeah, exactly. ThunderTalk really have gotten themselves a little bit more back into that comfort zone. Still not fully, you know, it's not like you've got yourself that hyperscaling ADC, but this composition is going to be a lot more comfortable in these team fights and really has that standard setup that you really want to see out of a ThunderTalk composition. You've got so much engaged between a Leona and a Xin Zhao. Ornn, no matter how far behind you get, if Hoya has a struggle in this laning phase, is still going to be useful with that Ornn, and the ornaments later on into the game are going to be huge as well. And this composition, if they can get those team fights going, is huge. That being said, EDG, they are far more specced into trying to get things going for themselves during these laning phases, and Lee Sin as a jungler wants to be proactive, wants to be getting kills, and has a lot of lanes with a lot of damage, but not so much gank setup to be able to do so.
Luckily, has the gank setup with his usual jungle counterpart in most matchups, but now support teammate in this Elise. I think Wink is going to be in a premier position to, like you kind of talked about, Bloxer, not allow ThunderTalk to try and just four-man group up, leave the Ezreal 1xN to his devices. I can't think of a better champion prepped for early game dives than Elise with that repel. So we'll see if Wink is able to use it to punish maybe not even just this Ezreal, but anybody on ThunderTalk trying to sit below that turret. As we are on to Summoner's Rift for what could be a series-defining game where ThunderTalk has normally found a way back into the series, and EDG are looking for a crushing blow to really shake up this Group C.
Yeah, we haven't really seen what ThunderTalk do when pushed to the brink in series. They've had a decent time of it in recent memory. EDG very, very opposite with that one. And speaking about teams that are very good for dives, it feels like a lot of what EDG has got for themselves is great at the dives. At least obviously one of those best pickups, but Lee's great for it. So is the Vladimir. See if that comes to fruition or if it's going to be a little bit more of a standard game. And as much as I would really like to get super hype about 2v2 kills in the bottom lane, they could happen, certainly, but I feel like, as we've been saying, it is far more likely that we're going to see these supports abandon the bot laners and go get involved elsewhere, especially as we're once again seeing this lane swap come out, initiated this time by ThunderTalk.
And Blocks, you got to feel a lot better about this for ThunderTalk.
Yes.
Even if this is the tank Jace, I mean, no matter what the summoner's choices are, the root choices are, the build choices, an Ornn, you know, 1v2, it stinks, but that's expected. Even if you are the tank Jace, you need some time to scale up, and Ezreal Leona isn't going to allow for any of that.
No, I mean, we've seen what the 1v1 prowess of ZDZ is on this champion. How are your 2v1s? Because, hey, if you could pick up a kill there, that would be huge. But more than likely, it's going to be a pretty miserable time for this Jace. And yeah, exactly, you don't want to have such a bad time early on as this champion, especially because your jungler has started over on the other side of the map. You're not going to have any support. Is this a dive already?
We might have dives on both sides. The first one is going to be ThunderTalk.
Oh, it's
great
so
scene of
clean.
lane, interrupts ZDZ. Beautiful setup from Feather, and they're able to grab first blood. Response coming for Edward Gaming. Hoya, level 1, gets to level 2 over now, but they have the Elise's power with that repel. Gonna flash get the cocoon, is interrupted with the dash, but with the repel, with the trading of turret aggro, it will be traded back. Both top laners fall, but ThunderTalk to get first blood and get a hell of a lot more than that as they double up that kill count and keep 1xN up to grab the kill and all this farm for himself.
That is not worth it for ZDZ. Yes, you managed to get yourself a kill right there onto Feather. It's a little bit of extra gold into your back pocket. You can see it does turn into a longsword, but you just give so much over to this Ezreal right here. Get to push in a full wave, pick up a turret plate, and you're not even worried about getting pushed in right here because you've lost so much XP as well as ZDZ. The teleport down. Hoya recognizes, hey, I don't want to get redove. Just walks back to lane because, again, the Ornn doesn't care. Sure, you're not getting any CS, but it doesn't matter. This champion is going to be useful whatever ends up happening. So far, ThunderTalk playing this lane swap very, very well for themselves and have put this bot lane in such a strong position.
Still do see ZDZ with pretty sizable gold lead over Hoya. It's what's giving the gold swing to EDG. He's able to find that trade kill on the second dive nonetheless. But first blood bounty over towards ThunderTalk. We'll see how much they want to use that to maybe play for these Monster Slayers. Monster Slayer goals as they are overloading towards this top side And Wink knows it, wants to respect it, is going to leave Assum in the 1v1 up against Hoya.
Just sit on into this one, see if you can survive for as long as possible. Ornn is an assassin, by the way, in case you didn't know that. Ornn seems like a tank. No. This champion is an assassin as well, so I would be respectful right here. As Assum, don't want to get too close to this Ornn if you can help it, and isn't even able to just bully the Ornn off of the CS right now. That's how strong Hoya is able to play this one. Again, everything right now just going in the favor of ThunderTalk. And we've seen quite a lot of explosive plays so far in this game. The thing that's been drawing my attention is every time we pan across mid lane, tons of damage being put down. No kills quite yet. Solo kills, though, potentially on the horizon. Aurora is one of the best for actually picking up solo kills in a meta in which mid laners often just kind of ignore each other and are more interested in the team fights elsewhere.
Can I interest you in a lane gank? Oh, no, Hoya, that was such a mistimed dash forward. Flash is immediately committed from Xiaohao, and he should find this kill. That's a timing moment for Hoya.
Oof. Yeah, that's the moment when your heart just sinks through the floor. The second you dash forwards, the enemy jungler pops up in vision. I feel like everybody can relate to that one. And that does give free access right here for Xiaohao to head straight on over towards this Ocean Drake. Going to be able to pick up a good amount of damage onto this one, of course. Beichuan is in the area, could potentially try to get a little bit of a steal going. Might be looking towards the mid lane instead, though.
Level 6 ultimates available for both of these mid laners. Angel confident taking some of these worst trades. The fact that Vladimir can just sustain himself back on up is both junglers and supports paying mind to the mid lane with the Grubs and Dragon both on the board here at the same time.
And it was just a disengage. Xiaohao decides actually not interested in trying to pick this one up, wanted to get involved in that mid lane play instead, and that's going to be a pretty big disadvantage right now because you're going to lose out onto these Grubs, don't get that standard last season trade of first Grubs for first Drake. They can still head on over and pick this one up, but it's just delaying things. It's delaying when you get the Drake on the board, it's delaying when you get that first little tick towards a feat of strength into your favor, and also giving over these 3 Grubs is going to be pretty impactful. Things like the Aurora can struggle a little bit with trying to take towers, same sort of thing with the Ornn, and so getting these Grubs is going to be huge for being able to increase that damage output onto towers, and potentially more than that, take away extra tower damage from someone like ZDZ, who can just sit on a side lane and shred through towers if given the opportunity and 6 Grubs to do so.
ThunderTalk sacrificing early gold lead for that objective chase. No signs pointing towards a Drake start just yet for EDG as we finally settle into our normal lane assignments about 6 minutes later than expected, or 5 minutes later than expected. But for ZDZ, with all that attention paid towards the Grubs, he has been able to build back a bit of a CS difference and should be pretty comfortable in this lane against Hoya, as we do see the ultimate from Vladimir come out here. Angel looking for a big trade into SeTab, but just doesn't have enough damage to really bring it home. Maybe just using that ult to find even more sustain to stay in lane.
Yeah, just wants to clear things out a little bit because SeTab has been so happy so far to step forward, constantly poking Angel out. Is at least going to be able to push this wave underneath the tower, potentially open up an avenue to be able to roam down towards this dragon, help out the rest of the team. We're going to see Xiaohao once again head on towards this Ocean Drake, try to pick it up for the second time. Again, looks to be uncontested, but we'll have to see because ThunderTalk, they do like to get scrappy, and they will at least know that this Drake has been started out. There was a ward in the Dragon Pit.
Don't have Solar Flare available for Feather. Dragon is under about half HP. Wing trying to assuage ThunderTalk from walking their way up the river. They got to be careful, though, that they don't pincer themselves. But Beichuan is just looking for the engage onto Xiaohao himself. The slope between worlds and the true shot barrage to put a bow on it. And ThunderTalk just brute force their way through the setup, get a kill, and the first dragon. They are en route to an early set of upgraded boots.
Indeed, they are. First set of Grubs, first Drake, and in the context of having lost out onto that Drake for your team, the amount of time that Xiaohao was spending taking this in the first attempt and then in the second attempt feels terrible, and it's also a great little true shot barrage as well to be able to snipe this kill away. It was going to be a kill picked up Regardless, SeTab probably a little bit miffed to have missed out on that one, but getting the kills onto that main carry of 1xN on a slightly more 1xN styled champion as well is going to be huge. Now 2-0-1, has also got a decent CS advantage over the opponent. The early lane swap working out wonderfully for ThunderTalk, as is all of these early objectives. So far, a very different early game to the one that we saw previously.
This is a game, I can say it, with the stamp of OTP approval, that Ezreal could be very dangerous in. Obviously, the Trinity Force pickup could be a big spike, as we do see Wink engaged on. Arcane Shift 4 for 1xN is actually going to force a Respect Flash out of Wink, so Key Summoner down for the Elise. Look for that Moramana Triforce as the real moment where 1xN might just blow open this game.
Exactly, and that is a really key flash to lose out. That's a ton of the engage that this composition really wants to go for. The rest of the engage that they have is very hard commit, right? You jump in with your Lee Sin, you go into the backline as this Vladimir, whereas being able to get the flash cocoon off as Wink is a great way to catch somebody who's out of position and get that initial kill for your team. Once again, try to get yourself into 4v5s rather than 5v5s, since your team fighting is that shaky part of the gameplay. So losing out onto that one is going to be pretty huge, but still, you survive, you don't end up losing out. 10 minutes into this game, and it's only about, what is that, 300 gold? The actual gap between these two teams. Very, very even. Despite the fact it's felt like ThunderTalk have been in control, the kills do keep going back and forth.
SeTab was showing some real respect with no vision in his own jungle that a dive was going to come. Nothing happened, and now Hoya
he can't step up.
Is watching that nightmare of SeTabs become a reality of his own, as he can't get anywhere close to this turret. He's going to try and use the good old Ornhorn to clear out the wave.
I think he got it.
The cannon,
he got the cannon.
At the very least, so that's a win.
Yes. Of a sort, in a way. Still, it is also going to be this feat of strength. Yeah, this is feats already at 11 minutes in. 3 grubs, 1 Drake, first blood. And now the first tower is going to go on over SeTab, going to pick this one up, trying to lose as many minions for the opponents before doing so as possible. And the upgraded boots already coming through is just a crazy good early game right here for ThunderTalk. They've really controlled the narrative throughout this first one. We'll see what they can do once we get around these more impactful teamfight-oriented moments. They're also going to be able to pick themselves up all 6 grubs, and it's really felt like this early game has gotten away from EDG.
They're really trying to set up for this dive, but Hoya's done an expert's job at taking the minion waves down before they can even use that repel, that sanguine pool to drop turret aggro. And you called it out, it cost them feats of strength, and now it costs them 6 grubs. EDG looks stuck in the mud right now on that neutral, in the topic of neutrals, and they're still trying to force this gank onto Hoya, but this is what an Ornn player wants. He wants all the attention.
Yeah.
He invites you into his home to try and brawl, and every time he gets away, it's a bigger win for his team on the backside.
Yeah, if Hoya dies every single time you gank him here, I still don't know that this is worth it. And the fact that Hoya isn't dying, despite having 2, 3, 4 people in his lane constantly, is a massive win for the team. Sure, he's died twice, but again, it's an Ornn. He doesn't care. Once those ornaments start coming through, you pay back your team dividends immediately. It doesn't matter to be really trying to shut down this champion of all of them. And for what you're giving in return, what ThunderTalk have been able to amass for themselves throughout this early game. Yeah, definitely questioning this early game decision-making right here out of EDG. Not usually something we've been so worried about. And it's the fact that it's a Lee Sin composition, right? It's a composition with an Elise in the support role. That is a good ganking composition, and you're using it on trying to kill an Ornn? Why?
That is the million-dollar question. Because now we're approaching 15 minutes. Turret plates are dropping in a mere 40 seconds.
My God.
Might not even need the turret plates.
They're going to get 2 full towers worth of plates?
They're definitely going to get at least 4 plates, and EDG can't step up right now. They're trying to once again ping on to Hoya. They're trying to hunt down Hoya in the mid lane this time. Maybe look for a wraparound, but there is that second turret full of plates to just amp up this gold lead. What does EDG look to do instead? Trying to set a trap around this dragon and fight, like you said, Bloxer, but they don't have the numbers currently. They're not in position to force themselves down river. and they're just going to give up the dragon. Maybe they get a 1xn face check, and that is what they'll grab. And that's the biggest person to find that kill onto. The only one with a shutdown. 1xn drops. Crescent guard out from Beichuan. Still having to run away, though, from Assum, who does drop the bullet time. It's just a couple shots too short. As we see both these mid laners drop their ultimates. Angel trying to see if he can out-sustain the Aurora damage. For the time being, that is a fat yes. And maybe now we'll finally see that die. But SeTab sniffs it out. Can he get past Xiaohao? Gonna flash, kick back, and use the minion wave expertly so no Sonic Wave can come out. But we're just skirmishing on all fronts. CDZ, though, can't find the kill on Beichuan, and finally everything settles down with a big win for TT and a bit of gold back for Edward Gaming.
I mean, it was a nice bait setup right there. Knew that somebody was likely to face check that bush, especially because it's such an odd position for you to really be sat in. Don't really expect 3 members, including the jungler of the enemy team, to just sit in that bush whilst the Drake is being taken. Most teams would step up, try to contest, especially as it's now a second Drake going over to ThunderTalk. They've really had control of these objectives so far. So the pick is nice. It gets you a good kill and onto a big carry that wasn't able to reset as quickly. 1xn not going to be happy with having died there, but overall it's still things going in the favor of ThunderTalk, and it really isn't reflected in the gold right now. They're up by 1,000 gold, which is good, but it isn't reflected in the amount of extra stats and buffs they've picked up from the feats, from these drakes, from the grubs. All of that is going to show its face once we get into these bigger team fights, and once they actually start trying to hit onto these towers later on. We've already seen 2 towers melt. That was a ton of turret placing. I think 9 turret plating going down across the board for ThunderTalk. And so they've put themselves in a good position coming out of this early game. Now they're just roaming around as a 3-man death squad trying to get fights. Bot lane, more action.
SeTab does not have access. Oh, I didn't think. It just comes up between worlds. He still has to use it defensively. Does not have enough damage. The Shock Blast goes wide from ZDZ, though. That might have been the killing blow. Instead, he'll have to use that on the turret. Will finally knock down that bot in tier 1. Who says tank Jace can't duel it out with some of those damage dealers?
No, I mean, the tank Jace, I mean, to be fair, once you've got yourself that Black Cleaver, you do still do a lot of damages. The base damage of Jace already high enough that you're not so worried about this one. We are going to get a teleport around to this Herald. Right now, ThunderTalk looking to continue their monopoly on these objectives. Looks like, oh, hang on. Xiaohao
does not have the steal in the bag. Beichuan just going to walk on out with the eye. And EDG not content to fight any further. Despite the fact the gold is dead even, you can see exactly what Bloxer is talking about. EDG really feel like they're on the back foot in a lot of these escapades.
And they're just getting to all of these objectives late, not able to set up around any of these fights. And we saw in the previous game how even when EDG were able to set themselves up for a fight first, it didn't necessarily go their way. Without vision, without that initial setup, things are going even worse. They are at least not overcommitting to fights they would likely lose, but at some point you have to pull the trigger because this composition scales so well out of ThunderTalk. If you just continue letting this game happen to you, at some point your Nexus just falls.
Breaking news, and Ornn is weak siding once again. Hoya potentially going to get dove here, but Xiaohao watches Beichuan walk by him. He does force the fight. Ornn Horn from downtown. That's a ram that doesn't find a win, just like over the weekend.
Oof. Oh, that one hurt. Ow. Oh, right in the chest. Okay.
I have
okay.
To. It's a ram ultimate. It's the ram god.
It is. It's gorgeous. Right now, it's a train, which, by the way, is the best skin, I think, in the game. Absolutely gorgeous skin. It's so cute. And once again, you're spending more time as EDG to get what? To have...
Annoy Hoya.
True. I think Hoya has got to be very angry at this point, and confused potentially as well as to why so much aggression has been put into his lane for so very little to show for it. Now we've got ourselves a Drake spawning very, very soon. 45 seconds until that one is going to be on the board. Is the Chemtech Rift as well. Honestly, one of my favorites. I think the plants change up the map in such an interesting way. So we'll see who's going to go towards this one. Do you want to give over the soul point already to ThunderTalk? I know that Drakes aren't as impactful in this current patch as they have been previously, and Chemtech Soul isn't the most exciting of all of them. But still, it's quite a big buff to give over to ThunderTalk in the grand scheme of things, especially when they've had so much. As ThunderTalk, though, you really don't need to mind towards this Drake at all. More than content to just pick themselves up, farm in the rest of these lanes, continue putting pressure on through this mid and top lane. They have put themselves in such a nice position where the tempo is entirely yours to do with as you please. You don't need to rush towards these objectives. Giving over 1, even 2 Drakes at this point really is not the end of the world.
And their damage dealers certainly coming online. We weren't expecting the 1xN Ashe game, didn't get to show off too much of his damage dealing. Now we have reached that 2-item more amount of power spike from 1xN. You can see Assum already chunked way below 50% HP. Does have the Bloodthirster to get himself a bit healthy. Beichuan eats a ton of fire breaths or Chemtech breaths from that Drake. Both teams still jockeying for this river position. SeTab maybe looking for a pick here onto Wink. Does use the repel early to dodge potential engage from Feather. EDG trying to set up a castle wall of his own in that river, and both teams go right back to the good old mid-wave fight.
Yeah, I mean, it looked like there was a position there for EDG to engage. They had ThunderTalk pincered between, but decided they weren't strong enough. Didn't want to go in onto that one, and it is going to be the Drake now started up right here by EDG. You do catch a moment where Beichuan is getting that red buff. Still, they can engage.
Getting chunked out, though, by this Jace. Hoya finds an engage on Angel, who does have the Sanguine Pool.
Oh, the flash forward
from Feather. They're going to try and lock up ZDZ. They burn through the health bar through the bullet time. True Shot Barrage comes across, and now 1xN can try and step up and do what he does best. Deal tons of damage, but he's losing his front line, quickly evaporating as he continues to fire Mystic Shot after Mystic Shot. 1xN is a one-man army as he knocks down a triple kill with ease with his loyal top laner beside him. Ace and a dragon for ThunderTalk.
ThunderTalk continue to not allow EDG to pick themselves up any of these objectives, and that was the 1xN that we were hyping up before this matchup even started. That's the 1xN we were hoping to see in the previous game. Gorgeous positioning right here out of the Ezreal, and I love the flash forwards from Feather right here. Hoya goes up onto Angel, but it's Feather flashes forwards, spots that ZDZ has stepped way out of position, and they're able to pick up this initial kill onto the Jace before the Jace is able to do any real damage. From this moment on, just watch 1xN constantly dodging around this fight, throwing out as much damage at everybody around him as possible, getting everybody low. You do lose Beichuan on this bit of fight as well, but it's now 3 quick kills in succession, and the Drake to boot. This is the team fighting that we're expecting out of ThunderTalk. We didn't quite see it in the previous game, but this one, they're coming into these team fights with the advantage, and oh boy, do they look good when fighting like that.
Always a fan, obviously, of the LPL broadcast, especially when they're able to throw those replays up and show us things that you could miss in the chaos of a full 5-on-5 fight. That crescent guard from Beichuan blocked all of the bullet time from Assum. The one
it looked like
critical
it was
ability.
Shred.
Yeah, it should have shred. If it weren't for that ultimate that just blocked all of it. We'll see if Beichuan continues to try and block off these bullet times. As we see the Atacon started up here, voracious as always. Xiaohao looking for a way into this pit. Sonic Wave not going to land, so he's going to try and dash through, but Atacon is already finished off. The revive buff is available for ThunderTalk, and boy, does it scare the hell out of EDG. Another bullet time, vanquish, 0 damage because Beichuan blocks it all himself. ThunderTalk are rolling into team fights like we expected when we kicked this series off.
That Crescent Guard once again just absorbs everything that you're trying to do right here. And Assume it feels so bad to have this big teamfight ulti and lots of champions stood right in front of you, and there's just nothing to be done. Xiaohao has to ward hop over, tries to get a kick going, and it just doesn't end up working out. SeTab still is going to be able to survive. And this, that feels terrible. You do at least manage to pop the free GA off of one member of ThunderTalk, but it's nothing. It's nothing right here. ThunderTalk. Yes, exactly. They are in firm control of this game. 6-1-2 right now on 2-1xN. We highlighted him for a reason, having a great performance right now, but the whole team is, right? Everybody seems to be working very well together on this one for ThunderTalk. And right now, the next big buff that they're going to be worried about is the Baron spawning in just about 2 minutes' time. So far, they haven't let their opponents get any neutral objectives whatsoever. I guess other than technically towers. So they hopefully are just going to be able to pick this one up. That's what they at least are going to be looking for. EDG.
Whoa.
They're just getting jumped in their base.
Yeah. No punishment whatsoever.
No.
Just walks his way out. Grubby's getting some solid damage onto that inhibitor turret. This is the ThunderTalk. This is what the same confidence, but when they aren't playing from 8k gold behind, it could be certainly suffocating.
Absolutely, and EDG, they really need to find themselves a way back into this game. First and foremost, you need to get that voracious buff off of all of these members of ThunderTalk. Then you can talk about actually killing them. For the minute, it looks like they're doing a little bit of poke.
Here we go again. It's Beichuan with the Crescent Guard up, steps up. That bullet time canceled by a solar flare.
Ornhorn.
Also cannot use any of it, and the Ornhorn calls for the death of Xiaohao. Beichuan dashing in, still has his own revive, 1x over the wall, and here goes the Xin back to base. Even when you kill off their health bar, ThunderTalk won't even give you bounties, won't even give you 300 gold. They're just giving you hands over and over again. As 1x and company are going to hit onto this inhibitor turret. In goes Angel. They do lose the Voracious Otacon revive at the exact right moment, so EDG can grab some of these bounties. Arcane shift away from 1xn, trying to create some space, still firing out these Mystic shots. Gets flashed on by Angel.
He's going to get kills!
SeTab combined with the Mystic shots of 1xn. He will not fall! And nearly finds another with the True Shot barrage, but man, is this the 1xn we advertised at the start of this series.
Yes, it is. I love that he's staring down the face of 3 opponents, 1 little Ezreal, and he knows he's going to get a kill. I was just waiting for the moment at which he decided to then arcane shift forward again and try go get more kills. Looks like the action does not stop, though. There's going to be a bit of an engage right here. ThunderTalk might have bitten off a bit more than they can chew. They don't have a lot of their main carries, but EDG, they just don't have that actual engage and the CC really necessary. You've got slows aplenty on this team composition, but in terms of hard CC that you can apply from a distance, you have 1 champion and it's an Elise support.
This was the worry. The pairing with Misfortune. She needs a support like Leona to even get these bullet times off. I know they've been canceled constantly, but there isn't great setup for this Misfortune, and Assum is in such a tough spot. EDG as a whole are in a tough spot, down over 6k gold.
They can just Baron.
Base broken open. They have to succeed a Chemtech Soul as ThunderTalk continue rolling the ball.
They could just push through mid right now and force on towards a Baron if ThunderTalk wants to. Xiaohao having to jump away right here. Anytime you're face to face with SeTab and 1xn, it's a good decision to turn around and run away. They do exactly that. Push through the mid lane, head on towards this Baron. You don't even necessarily have to start it up if you don't want to. You're just trying to draw EDG in because you win these team fights.
Hoya's up 5 levels over that Elise, by the way.
Wink.
Wink, Repel's already down. Flash committed, but following is Beichuan once more. Ornhorn going to go a bit wide, but ThunderTalk have established a base of operations in this red side jungle.
Absolutely, they have, and they can now pull on back towards this Baron if they want to, or just keep on pushing the advantage, right? The Baron helps, sure, you would like it, but it isn't even necessarily something they have to go on towards. They do decide they're going to pick up the Baron, and I like this response out of EDG. They're going to teleport down towards the bottom side and get a good amount of damage onto this tier 2 tower bot lane. In fact, they're going to be able to pick up the full tier 2 tower bot and a tier 1 tower mid lane. It's the correct response out of EDG, but they are still losing yet another neutral objective. Baron goes over to ThunderTalk, and they are now set up fully to go and push on into the base of EDG and take our series to 1 apiece.
And now you get to see the full power of those grubs. You win a fight convincingly with Baron and grubs. It might not. It might be close. It doesn't even have to be clean. But if you have enough members up with those grubs and the Baron, this game is as done and as dusted. There's not really much room, Bloxer, for EDG to fight back in, because that CC discrepancy, they're relying on what, a cocoon or a big kick to really find somebody, and there's so much mobility and protection for ThunderTalk, if that even comes to it.
It's the biggest issue I had with this draft coming out. What do you do if you fall behind and you can't just rely on your Lee Sin leaping into the backline to one-shot somebody? Angel can't just step up. ZDZ can't just go leaping in hammer form, right? When you have to play these ones out slowly, you get out-CC'd, out-muscled around all of these team fights, and it really has come to fruition, especially because it's not like ThunderTalk have medium amounts of engage. They have a ton of engage overall, and right now you can see it. EDG, they're trying to poke out, they're trying to find a way into this game, but I just don't know when they're gonna go. They have to pull the trigger at some point.
Solar Flare going to be dodged by a good Sanguine Pool by Angel, so key CC ultimate, like you were talking about, blocks are down for the time being, but it does cost them another inhibitor and inhibitor turret, with the last one remaining in that mid lane. SeTab playing around the range of that cocoon, not going to land. There's the Between Worlds with the Ornhorn combination. Is going to knock up and cut down ZDZ. SeTab goes into the stasis. Angel tries to run to the backline. This time a bullet time will find its mark onto Feather. Assum picks up 1 kill, but it's just too late and too big of a difference between ThunderTalk's wallet and EDG's by this point. Assum and Xiaohao, the only ones left up, but Beichuan wants to go for the killer blow and pack the kills in for 1XN as he's back to carry performances as expected, and ThunderTalk are back on even footing. 1-1 we go between this Group C heavyweight fight.
And these two teams, they've gone back and forth, and what different games they have been. EDG's victory was hard fought, a roller coaster of emotions back and forth the entire time. ThunderTalk, they swapped lanes at the beginning of that game, and they never looked back. Draft diff, potentially, execution diff, certainly, but more than anything, neutral objectives were just in the favour of ThunderTalk. Those hidden stats that we can't necessarily display to you via gold or via items just was so in the lead that it meant even when they were fighting only up 1,000 gold, it still felt like an almost insurmountable gap between the two teams. And ThunderTalk, once you give them that little bit, they teamfight so well that you're giving them everything they could ever ask for.
And it feels like both these teams have now drafted themselves into just such, I don't want to call it impossible spots, but they've drafted themselves into such a one-dimensional way of winning that has not happened. So game one, it was ThunderTalk, no damage all set up. This time for EDG, it was not enough setup, good amount of damage, but it just, you cannot get away with these one-dimensional comps in really against any team in the LPL, in my opinion.
No, I mean, you have one piece of hard CC that doesn't require your Lee Sin or your Jace leaping into the backline and pushing somebody back. Totally a cool play to have happen when you're ahead, but when you're behind, just the complete and utter lack of ability to initiate a team fight on your own terms was costing EDG again and again, and it felt like ThunderTalk, they were well aware of what was happening. They were more than happy to continue exploiting that weakness, and it felt like from the very beginning to the very end, there was just nothing that EDG could quite do. I mean, yeah, we need to see a different draft. Again, it was like we said in the previous round, hey, ThunderTalk, you need to change up what you're looking at with this draft. Same thing for EDG. I am very happy with the adaptation that came through for ThunderTalk, though. I really did enjoy that Ezreal performance. 1XM, we highlighted that player for a reason, had multiple triple kills in that game. Honestly, I think it was a quadra at some point, not quite sure. Either way, was dealing just tons of damage, and it's the way that this player moves that I think is the most impressive thing. On both the Ashe and the Ezreal we've seen, weaves through these team fights so very effectively, almost never is getting hit by any of the big CC things. The only time we really saw that was when he blind checked the bush that he didn't expect 3 members to be in.
Yeah, and any AD carry player is dying there. I don't care if you slot Ruler or Prime Uzi into that position. Yeah. They are dropping. As we do drop into these post-game stats, and we do get a look at the 1XN Masterclass in the damage department, but this, it's such an intriguing topic because we came into this one talking about EDG have been a pretty good early game team that struggled team fighting. What do we get game one? EDG, you know, a bit iffy in the early game, but when the big team fights came, they made it happen. ThunderTalk, maybe a bit of a scrappy early game team. They go into most late games with a pretty even footing, but boy, do they team fight their way out. Game two, they blow open the early game and don't have to worry about the team fights. So we've kind of thrown all of our pretty big narrative points, while they have been from one major series in the LPL, out the window through 2 games.
Yeah, these teams have decided to play in a lot of different ways, although one thing that we were expecting and did show itself very heavily in this one was both 1XN and Assum being key carries. You see in the damage graphs between those two, they were the majority of their team's damage. Assum was trying very, very hard to get an MF ulti off that wasn't immediately swallowed up by the Crescent Guard, and when he did get one off right at the very end of this game, was actually able to get a kill, was able to help the team out a bit. I'd like to see EDG try to play around this ADC a little bit more. It hasn't been the sort of one-sided show that we were potentially expecting out of the 1XM bot lane. And to be honest, Wink has been incredibly impressive throughout both of these 2 games. There's definitely a potential place to play through there for EDG. But as we have a look back at all of these highlights, you can see time and time again, it's around an objective, and almost every single time it is ThunderTalk having the early setup, and they can just initiate these fights as they please.
We haven't seen a ton of fights happen towards the end of a Racious Otacon take, and you gotta really think about the panic that must be happening in those comms, right? Because most of the time, you know, the golden rule with buffs like Baron, Elder Dragons, big Soul Stake Dragons is, okay, we have to turn. We can't just fully commit. We either fully commit or we turn. And most of the time it's a turn. So you expect to see these Octagon fights come across. You're like, where's the turn? Doesn't matter if you pick up a revive securing the buff. Then the turn can happen after, and it doesn't cost you.
Doesn't matter. Just go for it. Just try to pick this one up. I think it's the other side of the panic of losing a fight around the Elder, where you lose the Elder halfway through the fight, and you're just like, oh, we just lose this one. In this situation, it's the same sort of thing, but you've just got revives now. It doesn't even matter if you do end up losing this one out, because who cares? You can just go again next time, barely giving any gold over to your opponents either. It hasn't felt like Atakan's been particularly impactful to this game, though. Like you said, when we were coming into this series, LPL teams, they don't feel like they have to go fight around it at spawn. We did get an on-spawn fight around Atakan this time around, but simply because it felt like ThunderTalk, they had nothing else to be doing. They'd picked up all of the other neutral objectives up until this point, and they were just using it as another place to try to draw EDG into teamfights where their composition just did not flourish.
Did not flourish whatsoever. Who's going to flourish on the player of the game stage here from the LPL voters and our two dashing casters in the LPL studio? Yeah, this one's a given. I can give you the layup if you like, if you like Bloxer, but 1xN is picking up another MVP.
Exactly. I mean, 1xN, and I agree with this one wholeheartedly, 1xN was incredibly impressive and actually wasn't just abandoned in a bot lane to go sit on the Ezreal and then get involved later. Was very proactive, roaming around with the team a ton. Oh my lord, they actually go towards Beichuan.
Oh, did I miss? Wow, okay. Hey, you know what?
Okay.
I may be the AD carry player, but I'm always for the setup. You know, Beichuan was really big on those crescent guards, nullifying the MF, and the confidence he played with towards the end of that game, he was dashing under Nexus turret, dashing into base. He was the catalyst for the spark that became a blaze of glory for ThunderTalk in this one. So I'm glad that he got recognized, even with 1xN just